So probably like most high school kids, I really had no idea what I wanted to do when I was going to college. That definitely carried into my college career where I also had no idea what I wanted to do. At that point in time, social media was not at all on the radar as a career. I barely like existed at all. So um, maybe it's good I didn't know what I wanted to do so I could figure it out when the time came. But I ended up going to University of Maryland. I wanted a big school, a state school. I was interested in government politics, which ended up being my major. So I like the idea of being close to DC, um, and not too close to home, but close enough to get home. So I guess I just kind of started following my passions, trying different things, worked some internships, some summer jobs. And eventually, when I was graduating and I was still a little confused what I wanted to do, I ended up going to a grad school fair and I talked to some current students and the dean of a sports industry management program at Georgetown. So through that, I thought I love sports. I think this sounds cool. I don't think I want to go to law school, which was something I was considering. And I ended up applying to Georgetown, getting in, and then doing more internships and figuring out more about what I wanted to do. At that point, social media was becoming a bit of a career option, but it also was primarily like intern responsibility time. I'm sure you remember it well. People still forget that we are out of that time.
Yep.
But gave me a lot of responsibility to run a lot of social in my internship stage. And yeah, just learned a lot from my teachers, made a lot of connections. And then when I graduated, I knew I wanted to work in marketing and social. That's specifically what I was studying in school. Then worked at an ad agency in Pittsburgh for a little while and just really was hoping that the right thing would pop up. I was kind of ready to go anywhere for the right job. And then like the perfect dream job scenario, like the gates of heaven opened and like this social media entry level job was posted at the Penguins. And I was so excited and I had been writing a hockey blog and that was like still a thing then. Writing for Bleacher Report, which is not what then was nothing like what it is now. And I applied and got the job, and that was 10 years ago. So making moves ever since, just growing with the team and learning things as I go and messing up and hiring more people and figuring it out. So yeah, just I guess that's
That's
the
awesome.
short story. Yeah.
Yeah, I think messing it up and figuring it out, I think that's like the tattoo for anyone who works in this industry is that's how it works. But
Yep.
well, it's always
Definitely part of it.
yeah, and it's always good to hear from just everyone about their experience because it's like back when we were kind of getting into our careers, it was like what we're currently doing wasn't a career, like I think I've told this story before, but like I got a job at the local speedway when I just got out of college. I like coached some hockey. Like I didn't know what I wanted to do,
Hmm.
but trying to connect, the creative artsy side with the sports side obviously wasn't good enough to play any sort of pro hockey at that time and
Not
probably
for
good
me either. Yeah.
good for my body. But so I got the job. I thought it was like a video production role. Like I planned on going to film school until I saw how much money it cost, and then got into the job, made a couple cool videos on YouTube, and then got had a meeting with my boss where she was like, "You're really not living up to expectations. We thought you would take over all these social accounts by now." And I was like, "Oh, I didn't even know that was part of it, but consider it done." And so it's like when anyone asks me, "How did you get in the industry?" It's like, well, almost by accident, but it was amazing and perfect that it happened.
Yeah. It is wild how many people have stories like that of like kind of finding yourself here and then figuring it out as you go. And I mean, these platforms just weren't anything like what they are today. There weren't as many of them, and there you couldn't do as much. So Yeah, it's interesting. Everyone's skill sets, I think, that work in social, it's a little bit different. Like I'm definitely not a video editor, which is why I have a video editor on my team, right? And so yeah, you kind of fill in the gaps now that it's like such a big part of the strategy and the monetization of what the organization is doing. So,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's so crazy to think of. Like, I remember, I feel like with the NFL social media policy back then, it was like we could only post like one video a day on Twitter because video was so new. So it was like we were converting like practice clips to GIFs, and like it was just
so crazy.
the weirdest things to think of now that, what we do on each platform. And it's so crazy.
Yeah, do you remember? I forget what account it was, but somebody was like drawing pictures,
Yeah.
like and just like putting those out because you couldn't post the actual highlights.
Yep.
I think like at that time too, didn't the Steelers have their social department was like part of technology and like IT, right?
Yep.
And like,
My first, I don't know if he was necessarily my boss, but he was kind of like the big boss. But
yeah,
he's still there. Scott Phelps. He's the VP of IT, and you'll see him like during Steelers games. He's the guy standing behind Coach Tomlin, like with a headset on, making sure like the tech's working. And I'm like, this is the guy who hired me to run social, because that's who,
wild.
it was like three people who would just kind of chip in when they could. And it was like, and now it's like we have whole teams that do this stuff, which is so crazy.
Yeah, I feel like for a long time, teams were trying to figure out if social belonged in like sponsorship, marketing, PR, technology. So yeah, it doesn't
Yeah.
feel that long ago, but a lot has changed for sure.
Yeah. And I swear, every organization you talk to, it's a little bit different. Like the team's set up a little different, the reporting structure is different. And it's like before it was, oh, well, we have a person and they'll do whatever we need.
Yeah, we have an intern this
Yeah,
semester.
we're good. Well, so from somebody who has bounced around a little bit and basically left my hometown to come right back to my hometown, I'm always fascinated by like someone like you who could be at a company for 10 years and have that amazing growth and really, develop and continue to move up the ladder and lead and take on more responsibility. So I mean, maybe just take me through, how, maybe not how it happens, but like just your journey within the Penguins.
Yeah, so I think I've been really lucky, right? I think there's a lot of people that bounce around in general to just move up and learn more. And I've had the same boss my entire time at the Penguins. So there was like a 6 month period where there was somebody kind of between us, but
Yeah.
for the most part, I've been reporting to the same manager for my whole time at the team. But um, I've had a lot of people that have really valued what I bring to the table and have given me an opportunity to share my opinions and what I know. And, coming in pretty young out of grad school, you don't always get that opportunity. And, having a CEO and president who really valued social and thought there was a lot of opportunity there, having people who said, in my department, hey, this isn't my expertise. Like, you should take the lead on this, even as a coordinator, as a manager. So I think just seizing those opportunities, and then when I had them, and I was lucky enough to have them. So not saying, here's what I think is best without sharing why and some stats and data behind these things, making sure that if I'm being looked to as an expert, that I actually have something to say. And if there's a question, I'm not just like, I don't know, like you make the choice, like, and not kind of stepping up. That's definitely like a comfortable place for me. I always have opinions. So like I had to figure out like when to share and when to like take a step back. And yeah, I mean, just figuring things out in the workplace is always interesting, and I think I've learned a lot, and I've definitely, as we were talking about before, like made a lot of mistakes and things that I've kind of regretted, kind of looking back, or like looked at like certain posts or things that I thought were like a really great idea, and I stood behind and like, what was I like thinking? But you learn from them, and I think that's how you move up, is just like owning the shit that's not good, and then learning
Yeah.
from it and getting better. So
Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, and it's crazy the longer I'm in this and the different like more leadership roles that I have, I can look back and see like, oh man, I really didn't handle some of this stuff really really well.
Yeah, I think there's things too where it's like you just I mean, the last couple years have been so wild of like how things have changed on social and how the world has changed and how social and sports is like such a big part of everything going on in the larger landscape, right? Like before social was like an afterthought and now it's being sold into partnerships. It's essential for ticketing and revenue, but it's also essential for getting out a message on like the most important things that your team can comment on and how say things matter and when you say things matter and how you manage maybe personal feelings about something and then team feelings about something or players' feelings about something. And it just social wasn't just it just wasn't like that as much a few years ago. So there's always new things to learn for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I mean, like you look at like what's the Chargers tweet that was like, so hungry, gonna go to get my wife or
Yeah.
go to PF Chang's or something. Like that was like looking back. I remember when we hit 1 million followers on Twitter with the Steelers way back when. Like looking back at what the first like tweets were, and
Mhm.
it's so crazy to see where it was like I can't even remember what it was, but it was something of just like, you know, we play the Ravens on Sunday. And it's like, cool. Yeah, I'm pretty sure people knew that. But it's like everyone's just I mean, you look at threads now and it's like people just
Crazy.
throwing anything they can against the wall, seeing what sticks, and then keep on moving.
Hmm.